Okay, so the revelation is on the word shakar, which is the Hebrew word for drunk. And it is Strong's H7937. And the letters that are used to make up that word is shin, kaf, and resh. And shin is two front teeth, meaning to eat, consume, destroy. Kaf is open palm, so it means bend, allow, open. This is the Strong's H7937 word. And the last letter is resh, which is the head of man, which means first, beginning, high, chief. So when I looked at that word, it's got multiple meanings, but something that I see in that word with drunk is allowing destruction to come to the head of man, or afflicting the head of man to destruction.
The mind, head, the mind.
Well, I'm gonna get there because
Okay.
it can be. I'm gonna get there. So one of the scriptures that I have is Haggai Haggai chapter 1, 5-7, and it says. Haggai chapter 1, starting in verse 5, it says, "And now thus said Yahuwah of hosts, consider your ways. You have sown much, but brought in little. Eat, but do not have enough. Drink, but you are not filled with drink. Clothe yourselves, but no one is warm. And he who earns wages to put into a bag with holes. Thus said Yahuwah of hosts, consider your ways." So that word there is the same word for drunk. And if you look at that word over and over again, that word is not just, drinking liquid. It's the same word for drunk, being drunk with wine or being intoxicated. So for me, that whole
which word in Haggai?
Drink. That word drink there is the same word for drunk, shakar.
In verse 6?
Yeah, in verse 6. So it's not drinking just liquid, just, drinking water.
I got a different word. I got a different word.
What do you have?
H8354. And it's pronounced, it's probably similar. Let me go back to it again. There's two drinks. It says, "Ye drink, but ye are not filled with drink." There's two drinks. Which one do you want me to look up? The second one?
Yeah, the second one.
The second one, yeah, 7937. Dakar. There you go. All right.
So it's saying
I'm trying to track with you. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, 7937.
So in that it's talking about drinking, but not to the point where you are now intoxicated. And then when I was watching the video, Milo had brought out Deuteronomy, which I think those two verses kind of go hand in hand with Deuteronomy 14:26, where it talked about buying your silver to purchase your drink or to drink strong drink. And I always understood that as let me go there. But in Deuteronomy 14:26, I always understood it as whatever your desires are, it should be something that's acceptable in the presence of Yahuwah. Whether it's strong drink or buying wine or, just rejoicing, whatever activities that you're doing, it should be, you should be able to rejoice to Yahuwah. Let me go to that 14:26. So 14:26 says, "And you shall use the silver for whatever your being desires, your cattle or sheep, for wine or strong drink, for whatever your being desires. And you shall eat there before Yahuwah your Elohim, and you shall rejoice, you and your household." So I would think all of this goes back to drunkenness. Like, what is drunkenness? Obviously, it's, it has to do with your mind being affected or certain judgments being affected. But if you look at it to the letter, it's either allowing destruction to come to the head of man, or afflicting the head of man. And the head of man goes back to Yahusha. The head of every man is Yahusha, which is the word. So if it's to a point where, number one, it's not something that you can do with Yahuwah being at the table, metaphorically. if he's at the table with you, or you're in the presence of Yahuwah, if it's not something that you would do in his presence, then you've pretty much reached your limit. But if it's also something that afflicts the scripture or contradicts the word or contradicts righteous judgment, then you are now at a point of drunkenness. And if you look at Noah, he didn't know what his sin was. He didn't know at the time, but it was through the actions of his drunkenness, him being naked, that now exposed the drunkenness, because his judgment was affected, or his awareness was affected. So that was a huge revelation. And it also brought me to the Apocrypha, which one of the scriptures was the Canticles, which is the book of wisdom. I'm not familiar with it, but I am going to read the passage from it, because I think it's I think it kind of brings it full circle, what that drunkenness or not being sober-minded does. So it's Canticles, or the Book of Wisdom, chapter 4, which you can get it off of the Bible app. But I'm gonna read.
Give me a second. I'm almost.
Okay.
Wisdom. It has 19 chapters. Which chapter?
Chapter 4, starting in verse 20, and then going to chapter 5, verse 1. So it's just the end of it.
Oh, the end of 4?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it says, they shall come when their sins are reckoned up with coward fear, and their lawless deeds shall convict them to their face. And then chapter 5, verse 1 says, then shall the righteous man stand in great boldness before the face of them that afflicted him, and them that make his labors of no account. So if you look at how the world looks at drinking, social drinking, being drunk, being intoxicated or under the influence of something, the world condemns people who choose not to engage in those activities. But you're to the Father, your righteousness, or you're seen as being blameless before the Father when you don't allow your being to be afflicted, or allow destruction to come. So I don't know if that helps. I hope it makes sense, but that was the revelation that I got, that word shakar is either allowing destruction to come to the head of man, or afflicting the head of man. And you said it could be your physical head, or for me it could be physical, or it can be spiritual, because if you think of the head of man, that word resh, it also means first or beginning. And in the beginning, what was first, the flesh or the spirit? So what are you really, when you are afflicting the head of man or bringing destruction to the head of man, what is that drunkenness really afflicting? Is it just the flesh, or is it also corrupting, your spirit as well?
Definitely.
So I know that's deep, but
that's good.
How did you pair it with that?
How do you, Milo says, how do you pair that up with marijuana?
So for me, it is because you get the same effect. When you drink and you become intoxicated, there's a losing of your self-control, or losing your judgment. You really don't have the same cares that you did before. Same thing with being drunk or being high. You're just not really worried about anything, really. Any struggles, any stressors, it's completely covered or masked, but it's a false masking or a false covering, because once that subsides, you're back, in the same situation or in the same environment. So instead of allowing my desire or the desires of that euphoria affecting my judgment, affecting my self-control, influencing me to a point of further sin, then you can't really indulge in that. You can't become drunk with that, whether it's your desires, marijuana, or actual strong drink, because that word being drunk has a deeper meaning. And I think Noah is a great example of what drunkenness really is, because he didn't know he was naked. He didn't know that his child witnessed. He wasn't aware of it at all. He wasn't aware of his environment. So it, they always say that it affects your judgment, but no one really explains on a deeper level what that really means. So
let me just share some stuff from me regarding marijuana, some thoughts that are coming to my mind. Some other differences between drinking and smoking marijuana is this. Smoking anything, you can't do that around other people without disrupting them. It's not something you can do at a dining room table and not interrupt anybody else. Smoking anything, cigarettes, marijuana, any other plant, I don't care what it is, anything you light up and you have to inhale and you breathe out the smoke, you're automatically putting everybody else that's around you in something that, if they're against it, you're putting them into it. You don't do that with wine, and you don't do that with drinking juice or anything like that. That doesn't happen. That's one big difference, because I've been thinking about this a lot. I really don't, I already made an announcement. Marijuana is not allowed in this assembly. Smoking marijuana, smoking cigarettes, smoking anything is not permitted in this assembly. You are allowed to have that problem, but you must be willing to get deliverance and, get off of that stuff. We're willing to pray for you and help you here, but it's not something that we're considered to be okay. Marijuana for medicinal purpose, in the sense of like the oil, other ways to consume it. I've been looking into that. I could see that it has a lot of benefits. Yahuwah created the plant, you know what I'm saying? And it definitely seems there's a lot of testimonies about the oils and everything and the benefits. That's different. But smoking marijuana is not in the Bible. You don't see anybody smoking anything gathering together with people and gathering at a dining room table or showing up to a party or a wedding smoking marijuana. You don't see this in scripture. If you want to consume something in your mouth that can make you feel joyful or enlighten you and take a few of your cares away for a bit, wine is one of those things. In scripture, it talks about drinking wine. They go to wedding and they drink wines at weddings, because people go to weddings to rejoice, to celebrate, to have a good time. So, but drunkenness is the line. And that's what Ezzy's bringing out here. She's looking deeper into the word. When it's bringing destruction to yourself, when it's bringing destruction to your head, to your brain, to your mind, to your spirit, or to Yahuwah, you're going against his word and going against what is good and what is right, and you're not able to sobrietly make good judgments and good decisions. That's when you know you've reached your limit. Just wanted to share that. I was on my head. Ezzy, I thought that was good. I think it's worth to keep on the recording. And anybody got any questions or comments regarding that little nugget? Milo's like, I think that was awesome. Milo said that was awesome. So praise Yah. Good stuff. Shalom.